will ever be prepared for everything, all scenarios. And these people that want to go out all by themselves forget the fact that we need each other. That's why we're in some respects, why we're in wars and stakes, and we're going to have to help each other. And none of us will ever be fully prepared. And I want to make that really clear. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try, and you should do those things that you need to be prepared for, and the Lord's going to help us. But how long can you go without water? 3 days, right? That's what they always teach us. If you're well hydrated when the disaster starts, right? So, maybe you're dehydrated and then the disaster starts. It's like, well, wait a minute. That wasn't what I had planned. In the United States, we walk up to the faucet and turn the water on. And what's the chance that that water is going to come out? In this country, it's, 99.99. Well, I had, a couple months ago, I turned the water on and nothing there. They had a break in the water main. But it's pretty rare for us not to have that. How many of you have lived outside of the United States? Did you live in a country where they had that same thing where you turned the water on and it came out? No.
Or you can't drink it.
Or you can't drink it. So I lived in Korea twice, 2 years at a time. And when I was first there, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 70% of the time you could turn the water on and there'd be something come out. But then we always had to boil it. So part of that is that we just aren't used to that in this country. So we need to figure out short term. You're never going to store a year's worth of water, right? So what do you need? Well, so you need to be able to prepare it, but you also need some short term. What if they come, knock on your door, county sheriff, open up, you need to evacuate now. My nephew in Santa Rosa starts gathering, and then the sheriff goes, no, you need to leave now. They got in their car, they drove out with flames on both sides of their car, covering on top of them as they drove out of their home. When they went back, his 67 Impala was melted to the ground. I mean, they had to leave, and they had to leave now. So having some water in your car is good, right? Now, those of you that know me very well know I don't like water bottles. Because if they get hot, not that they would ever get hot around here, but if they get hot, then they put the plastic stuff in there, which can cause problems. So what do? Well, I went to water boxes. They also have some Mylar ones. These I have in my car, and then I have something for that. So I try and keep in all my offices some water and chia seeds, because I can survive with that. We're not going into that part, but think about, okay, am I going to be able to have some way of getting water immediately in the short term till I can figure out what my other options are? One of the things when I travel, there's this water filter where you fill this up, and then it's got a water filter that you go like this, push it down, you can open it up and pour it in to a container. But this whole idea that, gosh, where do I spend my time? car home, and how can I have something that's quick and be able to deploy it? So I've got a little 72-hour bag right by the door, but in all of my vehicles I have the water and the Coast Guard lemon cracker things. I don't know if you've seen those. So, but the whole idea is think about options for doing the water. So the other thing is that you're going to have to change your life a little bit. Can't get up and take a big luxurious bath if there's no water, right? So you may have to do a sponge bath. You may have to use sanitizer because you don't want to get sick. You're going to have to brush your teeth with bottled water because if we have an earthquake and it's messed up the lines may not have water that's very drinkable. It may have bacteria in it or other contaminants. So you want to be able to figure out how to get the water safe and get as many impurities out as you can. So what if you get a boil notice from the county, whatever? How do you make it so that the kids don't just go over and do what they used to do and just drink? So you can put tape over it. You can turn it off down below because most of them don't know where that magic switch is, down below there. But the other thing is that if we have some sort of disaster, typically what happens is you'll have water intermittently. So it'll be on and then off, on and then off. Well, where can you store that water when it's on? Bathtub, right? And you can just drink out of the bathtub because all of your bathtubs are absolutely clean and you'd love to drink out of them, right? So in every one of my bathrooms, I have something called a water bob. It's a bathtub something bladder is what the bob stands for. But this is a liner you stick in the bathtub. You fill it up. So if you only got water intermittently, this is a great choice. So part of what I want to do is give you just a couple of little tips. One is get water in your car and in all the places that you are, and get one of these. What do you think these cost? $25. Sometimes you can get them for $20. So those are two things that I would encourage everybody to figure out, get.
What's it called again? I'm sorry.
Well, there's a couple of different brands. This one's called a water bob.
Okay.
But it's just it's where you stick it in the bathtub. It's a bathtub liner. Stick it in the bathtub, fill it up, and then it's got a siphon that you can siphon water out, so you don't have to try and pour it. Yeah.
That's a one-time use only.
It is.
I bought one and thought it was reusable.
Yeah, it is a one-time use, but if you don't have anything else, and we did it a couple months ago when we had a water main break and I turned on the water at 5 in the morning and there was nothing. I went out and got my water barrel and put some water in a bucket and put it by the toilet so my wife could flush the toilet and went off to work. But in a situation where there's not a lot of water around, you're going to have to start conserving it. And you're going to have to say, all right, this is good water. We're going to use this for drinking. This is okay water. I can use it for a sponge bath. And this is gray water, and I can use it to water my plants. And that's what most of the world does, except they don't ever have real good drinking water, a lot of them. So what about going to the toilet? So if you really don't have a lot of water, you don't want to be wasting it on flushing the toilet, right? One option, in an emergency, they just put, in the hospital, put liners, plastic liners in the toilets, and you went on the toilet into the plastic bag, and then they sealed it off and hauled it off. So you can do those kinds of things. You can do an outdoor toilet, not as convenient, especially in the winter. Showers really end up being kind of sponge baths, clean up the most important. You're going to use very little water for cooking, if you can, so you want to try and get that. I have a solar oven that has a little indicator that'll tell me when it's disinfected the water. The other thing is laundry. Laundry is going to be a problem. Now you can get little laundry things, but we won't be changing our clothes quite as often in that case. And so you want to reduce the amount you need. And then you really want to make sure that you don't drink things that are going to dehydrate you. What are those?
Caffeine.
Coffee, okay. So hopefully that's not a problem. But sodas will, even if it doesn't have caffeine, the carbonated water actually pulls more water out of you than it gets in. So you want to drink non-carbonated water, that kind of thing. And so the drinking guidelines, you want to make sure it's.
But in the event that you have questionable water and carbonated water, you know your carbonated water is clean, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's your option,
all of these things you have to take into consideration. Sure. So if I've got water that I'm pretty sure isn't very good, and I have soda, I'll drink my soda. But you have to realize that's choice, and I better be figuring out a way to make sure this water now is going to be drinkable. Because if I only drink soda, I'm going to get dehydrated pretty quickly. Yeah.
So when I open up a soda bottle and I leave it out, it starts going flat. Does that mean you could open it up and will the carbonated water
That actually will help.
go out a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. So then you say, well, I don't want to spend money on all these containers. What can I use? Well, don't use milk jugs. Okay? They deteriorate really fast. I know some people that have had lots of water problems in their basement because they stored it in milk jugs. You can store it in soda bottles. You can store it in the heavier plastic buckets, but you need they put on there the type of plastic that needs to be the PET or the PET. So how much? About a gallon a day per person is the bare minimum for drinking. So you're not going to be able to take a sponge bath or any of that. And so they say somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 gallons for 2 weeks. Why 2 weeks?
Takes that long for Red Cross to get there.
Yeah, actually the church usually shows up before Red Cross does.
I know.
I always love the comment from Elizabeth Dole when she was in charge of the Red Cross. She says, whenever there's a disaster, there's two groups that always show up. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the Mormons. Because you have the Mormon Helping Hands people, and then you have the trucks that have the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I love that one. So, part of it is, if it's gonna be longer than 2 weeks, you better start figuring out some alternative ways to getting some water. So, don't use containers that were used for non-food things. That's a bad idea, okay? So you wanna use food grade, you wanna rotate it periodically, yeah.
You said don't do the milk jugs, but what about like those Costco jugs? Because the normal milk jugs are pretty flimsy, but those are, is it just the same plastic and it doesn't work?
The milk jugs tend to sour because you can never get the milk out of the plastic. And so it's not just that they deteriorate, they can grow things that I usually don't like.
Did you say you could use bleach bottles though?
You can, so you can use bleach to help it, but, and so
I
if you're
meant
using.
to store water in. Do you store
Right,
water? Okay.
and so on the church website, it did have how much you use, like a quarter cup for 55 gallons. It's not a lot.
But the bleach container itself, can you store it?
I wouldn't do it in the bleach container, your bleach is too high.
Okay.
It's too high.
So I'll give you a suggestion not to use that because there was a person that I heard of, they used that for a drinking jug out there when they worked. And one time they accidentally picked one up that wasn't just
The
water.
bleach, yeah, but also it just contains so much, and it's not really considered a drinking plastic, so, and then you wanna use, if you can, get the white hoses, which are for filling them up. So these are just some examples. There's the 55-gallon drums, that's what I tend to have. They're a little heavy to move. You don't want to be picking that up and sitting it in. Yeah,
It says on here though that to make sure that you empty them and refill them. Do you do that with your 50-gallon tub?
I do, yeah.
How often do you usually do that? Or supposed to?
How often are you supposed to, or how often do I do it? I'll give you both answers. So they say about every 6 months. I do it about every year.
Where do you put it?
What?
The 50-gallon drum.
They're in the garage, and what they say is if there's a chance it'll freeze, leave about 4 inches of headroom.
What if it's hot in your garage? Does it matter?
Well, so it turns out that, you know, I use a little bit of bleach when I do it, and if I'm going to be using this for drinking, I'm going to be using one of those filters before I drink it. So.
Just point to that picture there in the bottom, right up to the right. Right there, yep. That's on my back porch. I have several in my garage, and then I was able to buy those at like $10 a barrel, and I just couldn't pass it up. I thought, all right, what do you do with them? They happen to be white, they're clear, and so we covered them with tarps so that the light wouldn't get in there. And I leave about 10 inches of head space because it freezes, and I figure, you know, if one of these busts open and splits, but it's a few hundred extra gallons of water that I wouldn't otherwise have.
Are they food grade plastic too?
Yeah.
So I've been looking into this pretty heavily on the internet and stuff, and I find stuff that I like, and they had some that were kind of like the middle picture on the top row there,
This one?
and I think they called them water bricks.
They are, and they'll stack,
And they were
which
very
is
highly
nice.
rated, and they were like
Yeah.
2.5 or 3 gallons each, so they're easy to handle.
Yeah, a lot of them are 5.
Yeah,
but
and then
yeah.
they had the big lids on them so that when you emptied them out, you could put grain in there to store and stuff. And I thought, what a great thing, until I looked at the price. And it's like $70 for 2 of them.
Right. And so for $70, you can get 55 gallons, or 70 to 90 in that range. And so I have enough room in my house. I store my grains separate than the.
My rule of thumb in all the research I've done is about $1 a gallon. If you're paying more than $1 a gallon, you haven't looked hard enough.
Okay.
And there on the bottom, those are agricultural food grade things. You're going, you know, that's what farmers and ranchers use. And those are 500, 700, 1,500 gallon containers. And so
you can find places where you can, for $1,500, get a 1,500 gallon agricultural thing and fill it full of water.
And then the military came up with their inflatable bladders that you can get that'll hold like 800,000 gallons, but those are just unwieldy for me. The other thing, where else can you get water in an emergency? Your water heater, yeah.
Now, we have an attachment to our water heater that, you know, if you have to get the water from the water heater, you just have to turn it on and, you know, it gets through, but it's just a little attachment that costs like $10.
Yeah. And see, this is the pouches, so rather than the boxes, the pouches. And again, these are designed more for long-term storage, like on a boat, where they know it will get the extremes in temperatures. So just some other storage. This is a picture showing that water bob. Aqua, there's another brand that's common that's a little cheaper. So mason jars. You empty a mason jar, you can fill it up. So there's lots of ways to do it. The trick is do something. Yeah.
My mother-in-law, whenever she didn't have her canner completely full when she was doing fruit, like you have, always end up with those, just a few jars to do, she'd always fill a few empty ones with water and run them through there, and then you've got clean water.
Yeah.
That's
And,
sanitized on
and some
yourself.
people, they now sell it in number 10 cans. So I have a number 10 canner, so I just can can my own, right? Yeah, go ahead.
So if you kind of purify it with some bleach, and you have a 50-gallon one, I don't know anybody that empties those every 6 months and changes them. Microorganisms can't grow in it. What's going to contaminate it?
Well, the reality is that I probably will be late on emptying them when the disaster strikes, right? And what my choice is that I have a water filter that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, that for the stuff that I need to drink, I'm going to run it through the water filter before I use it. So assuming that I have a chance to do that. I mean, all of this depends on what kind of disaster. But again, having something everywhere you are. So if you're like my nephew that has to evacuate now, and then having some stuff that gets you by on long term is helpful.